what the black man and woman needs to know about the nation, about the world, about themselves. Muhammad Speaks It. To order your 12-issue subscription to Muhammad Speaks newspaper, 313-371-7033. 313-371-7033.
Kareem Bean Pie is the grand champion of all bean pies. The rich flavor and smooth texture takes this pie to a whole new level of delicious. One bite and you'll understand why people all over the country call daily to order Kareem Bean Pie. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033. Kareem Bean Pie.
This bean pie is delicious.
Muhammad Speaks presents Messenger Elijah Muhammad's Teachings by Minister Khalil Shabazz every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. at Muhammad's Temple of Islam, 12609 East McNichols Road in Detroit.
Brothers and sisters, we rise for prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent and Merciful, Soul Master's dear German in which we now live. The alone do we serve, and the alone seek for thine help and aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path, path of those upon whom thou bestow thy favors, not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray after they heard thy teachings. Say he, Allah is one God. Allah is he of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, there is none like him. And I bear witness that none served to be served worth of praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is thy true servant and last apostle. Ameen. We'd like to acknowledge the brothers and sisters that extend us the greetings of Assalamu Alaikum. We have Brother Mustafa and Sister Sharice Ali from Ohio. We have Brother Dawad Ali from Maryland. We have Captain Hakeem from Virginia. And we have Sister Miriam Omar from Oklahoma. I'd like to say in the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and in the name of his last and greatest messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I'd like to greet the brothers and sisters with the Nation of Islam's greeting words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum. Today we like to talk about how IUIC steals Muslim ideas. This is something that I want to bring to people's attention, because they continuously every week attacks us because they steal our Muslim ideas. This is a screenshot of one of their videos. It's called, "Are We Allowed to Kiss the Kaaba Stone?" Because one of their detours or one of their tricks is to try to continuously talk about something that ain't got nothing to do with Islam for the black man in America. They can never talk about what the messenger taught, what he taught the black man. So they stealing the messenger's idea. So what they do is try to have the black man looking over in Mecca. So they talking about, are we allowed to kiss the Kaaba stone? Then they talk, I screenshotted another part where they telling the black man that every time they come in contact with Muslims, we look dumb and stupid, like we don't know what we talking about. So let's talk about the history of the messenger. Because the messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, taught us that history is best qualified to reward our research. We must know the history. Because the messenger said, how can you know Allah if you don't know me? You must know the messenger. So we want to start with a little bit of history. This comes from the June 25th, 1959 California Eagle. And the California Eagle was a black newspaper out of Los Angeles. They have an article called Our New Muslims. It says, although he put it rather crudely, one of our local politicos had something when he charged that there is a rising tide of blackism in the Negro community. If by that he meant to say that Negroes are demanding an ever larger say-so about what happens to them, the signs are all around us. One of the most violent manifestations of this new attitude is expressed by those who have taken to call themselves Muslims. Every time I attend a public affair on expense of this new cult, thrust some of its literature in my face, hands, and a couple of newspapers have taken to printing what its leader Muhammad X has to say. Now this is very important when we look at the history, because we look at what the black man's reaction to these new ideas that the Muslims was introducing to the black man. Because we think that when you become militant, it's automatic qualifications that militants have. We automatically think, like he says, a rising tide in blackism. He said that in 1959 when the black man was still calling himself Negro, nigger, and colored boy. He says it's a rising tide in blackism. He says in the Negro community. He says the Negroes are demanding an ever larger say-so about what happens to them. We think that's just something that happens when you become militant. You want to start talking about doing for self. You want to start telling people this is what the black man should do for black people. We don't know that that's a Muslim idea. Right. All praise is due to Allah. Because this brother looking like, yo, what's up with these Muslims? It's a rising tide in blackism. We see all these black people want a larger say-so. Because before the messenger, a nigga did not want no say-so in nothing that dealt with him. He wanted to let the white man take care of him. The messenger says that the white man robbed us of even the idea to want to do something for self. Yes. That's what the messenger taught. So when we look at the history of the messenger, we get to see these new ideas when they was introduced to the black man. He thought it was strange for black people to want a larger say-so in what goes on with the black man. So he goes on to say, he says one of the more violent manifestations of this new attitude is expressed by those who have taken to call themselves Muslims. Every time I attend a public affair, an exponent of this new cult thrusts some of its literature in my hands, and a couple newspapers have taken to printing what its leader, Muhammad X, has to say. Then it has another subtitle that says, an eye for an eye. That's one of my favorites. Because we think that come with being militant. To want eye for an eye. We gonna fight back. No. That's a Muslim idea. An eye for an eye. Before the messenger, that was just something in the Bible that Moses was saying. Moses was saying, and that's the Old Testament. That's what Moses was saying back then. But this brother say, these niggas also want eye for an eye. Now we don't have time to actually read the eye for an eye that he was writing about. But we gonna read about some eye for an eye. Down in Los Angeles with Muslim followers of the message. This comes from the Journal of Negro History, volume 79, number 2, and it was published by the University of Chicago. It says, established in 1957, it did not take long for members of the Nation of Islam, Mosque number 27 in Los Angeles, to experience their first confrontation with law enforcement. On 2nd September 1961, several Muslims were selling their national newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, in South Central Los Angeles at Venice Plaza in the parking lot of Safeway grocery store when they were accosted by two white store detectives. The Los Angeles Times report, the detectives were stomped and beaten after they tried to stop Muslim solicitation. This is the messenger. We think that comes with being militant. This is a Muslim idea. Because unlike Bus Stop Bishop, we got to talk about these fakes. Bus Stop Bishop and these fake black Hebrew Israelites, while they talking about when they get run into us, we don't know what to say to the bus stops. They live in a generation where the white man has changed his strategy. His strategy is not brutality anymore. His strategy is allowing the black man to have equal access to his filth and indecent society.
That's right.
That's what we got to remember when we listen to Bus Stop Bishop and these fake tough Israelites. They don't live in the same society that the messenger lived in when Muslims first began to take notice. Because when the messenger was on the scene, the white man's strategy was terrorize niggas. That was his strategy.
Yes.
Because we all know that there is an art of war.
Yes.
The messenger taught us this is the war of Armageddon.
Yes, sir.
So when you fighting a war, there's many strategies. Sometimes you got strategies in the air. You got strategies on the ground. You got strategies in the water. You got strategies with propaganda. You got strategies with friendships. There are all types of strategies in war. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on the scene, the white man used a completely different strategy than he's using today. His strategy was harass and terrorize niggas. So Muslims selling the Muhammad Speaks in a parking lot of a Safeway supermarket. So white store detectives decided to try to tell Muslims to stop doing what they was doing. So the Muslims refused. They told these white store detectives that they had permission from the store owner. So what did the detective do? It says, according to witnesses, two white store detectives employed by Safeway store came onto the lot and tried to chase the Muslims away. That's their first mistake. They tried to chase the Muslims away. Then it says when they refused, saying they had permission from the owner to sell papers there, the two detectives produced guns and attempted to make a citizen's arrest. Mistake number two. Thinking that guns was gonna save you with followers of Elijah Muhammad. Because when Bus Stop Bishop, and I hate that this is going on, he dealing with this hypocrite Louis Eugene. I wish that we was Muslims like Elijah Muhammad taught us to be.
Yes, sir.
I wish we were.
Yes.
I want to see the look on Bus Stop Bishop's face when he's seeing Muslims who believe like the messenger taught us to believe. And then Muslims see them standing on the corner disrespecting the messenger. I want to be with them Muslims. Because the messenger taught us. He said a verbal attack is the same as a physical attack. Yes. Messenger said this is the war of Armageddon. Sometimes a war strategy is not physically fighting. Sometimes it's just propaganda. The war of words. That's a war strategy. That's a fighting strategy, just words. The messenger say, I'm the last messenger of Allah. A war strategy is a black person to say he ain't no messenger of Allah and just try to start spreading that. We supposed to fight them.
That's right.
Whether we fight them back, when we come out with some more lectures against them, if they get more aggressive, we physically fight them about words. So these white people at this Safeway supermarket decided to pull guns on followers of Elijah Muhammad. So it says, the Los Angeles Times reported that the detectives were stomped and beaten.
Praise be to Allah.
That's the kind of Muslims that this fake bust-out bishop don't see. He see them cowards with that hypocrite Louis Eugene. But with the messenger, if you interfere with them selling papers, we about to fight. Them brothers told him one time, this dude told us we can sell paper. That's enough. We ain't no more talking. We done said all we about to say after we tell you we got permission to sell papers here. Everything else is physically fight. That was the messenger's FOI.
Yes.
Just like with Bust-Out Bishop. We would tell him one time, you need to stop disrespecting the messenger, Master Farad Muhammad, and Islam. That's all the talking we do. If we see you doing it again, we physically fight. I want to drive the point home. Because the messenger taught us. He said, hold on to Islam. We're not going to let this hypocrite Louis Eugene change what Islam is. He can change it for his followers. He can produce these candy cotton soft FOI. He can turn it into the cream puff nation of Islam if he wants to. But the messenger told us, he said, hold on to Islam.
Yes, sir.
He said, because the nation will rise to never fall again. So we see with the messenger, we see that he introduced to the black man new ideas. One of those new ideas was blackism, as the article says, and he introduced to the black man, it says that Negroes are demanding an ever larger say-so about what happens to them. Now let's go on even further, because we want to cover coast to coast. This comes from the Des Moines Tribune, October 20th, 1960. This says, rejects integration. Malcolm X is spokesman of new Negro attitude. Another new idea. You think from listening to old no good Bust-Out Bishop that if you militant, you against integration. That's not true. That's another Muslim idea.
Right.
Now let's talk about it. It says, until recently, the whole purpose of the militant among the black citizens of America and of the countless whites who supported them has been to enforce for Negroes the rights guaranteed by the Constitution to all Americans. That's what it meant to be militant. You a militant beggar. I'm going to be real militant on how I demand my 14th Amendment rights. That's what it meant to be militant until the message. This is why it is so important for us to know the history.
Yes, sir.
Because we would think that Bus Stop Bishop and them being so militant, talking about we don't want integration. We would think that comes along with being militant. You know, if you militant, you supposed to not want integration. That's not true. It says it rejects integration. Malcolm X is spokesman for a new Negro attitude, not an old one. Not one he picked up from Marcus Garvey. Not one he picked up from Noble Drew, a new attitude. So he goes on to say, it says, until recently, the whole purpose of the militant among the black citizens of America and of the countless whites who supported them has been to enforce for Negroes the rights guaranteed by the Constitution to all Americans. He says, but now, a new sentiment is growing up, mainly among the Negroes of New York. Those who try to foster and enlarge its argument that the American blacks will have brighter hopes of a full and dignified life if they reject the very idea of integration and instead struggle for their rights as an exclusive community. We hear it from the East Coast as well as the West Coast. These were the ideas of God's last and greatest message. But we are so far removed from the message. We so far removed with seeing followers of the messenger everywhere that would put you in check if you tried to steal some of the messenger's teachings. So now we live in a time where so many people have added the messenger's ideas to their program. Let's just ask ourselves, just for further clarification. In 1958, when that article was being written in Los Angeles by the California Eagle, or in 1960, when the article was being written by the Des Moines Tribune about Malcolm X, what was these small hats doing? What was they playing for the black man? It's a book called Black Jews of Harlem. Talking about black Jews. Talking about how they was asking the white man for help. Because it is not just something that comes automatic for militants to want separation. To want to plan your own future. That is a Muslim idea given to the black man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
But let's go even further than that. Let's go to an article that comes from a brother named Jamie J. Wilson. It's called Come Down Off the Cross and Get Under the Crescent. The newspaper columns of Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. This brother named Jamie J. Wilson is a professor at Salem State University. This is what he says. He says the Nation of Islam's wish to reach a larger black audience in the late 1950s dovetailed with African American newspaper editors desiring to sell more newspapers. So from 1956 to 1962, 4 major black newspapers. Now let's stop right there. The Messenger wrote for more than 4
black newspapers. He just highlighting 4. Just for the record. He says 4 major black newspapers. The New York Amsterdam News, the Pittsburgh Courier, the Los Angeles Herald Dispatch, and the Westchester Observer featured over 300 weekly columns penned by Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. Once again, we think that just because you militant, now you out trying to teach the black man. Now you trying to get your Bible to get the black man to understand what the Bible is talking about. That's another idea that comes from the messenger of Allah.
Yes, sir.
Documented facts. This brother said over 300 weekly columns. 300 weeks of the messenger writing articles about the Bible and the Holy Quran. Because bus stop bishop now, they try to hijack the Bible. They say the Bible, one lie, is the Bible is written by a black King James. That's lie number 1.
Yes.
Then they say the King James wrote the Bible for Israelites. Lie number 2. Because they talking about Israelites as the black man. When we know Israel represents the whole white race.
Yes, sir.
So let's look at what else it says about the message. It says in these more than 300 columns, Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, God's angry men, as they were called by the editors, preached, responded to black and white critics ranging from Reverend George C. Violence of the Christian Community Church in Harlem to white racists like J.B. Stoner of the Ku Klux Klan. Now we got to go to this old hypocrite, Louis Eugene. Why we ain't heard no response from this hypocrite told no good bus stop bishop?
Yes, sir.
Because this hypocrite has changed the nation of Islam.
Yes, he did.
All that head busting, all that going back and forth with the truth, he changed. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's philosophy was simple. His philosophy was, it's only one God with one message and one message. Simple and plain.
Yes.
He said, what I got from God. So if you talking about what you got from God, we got to both see who right and who wrong. Because we both ain't right. Messenger said, if what you have is better than what I have, he said, I would take all my followers and come and follow you. He said, but if what I have is better than what you have, he said, you should bring all your followers and come follow me.
That's right.
That was he said. But this hypocrite, he got a totally different philosophy. He want to take all the philosophies or pretend like we all need to just come together and bring all our philosophies and we just work it out together. That's hypocrisy.
Yes.
So let's go on with what he said about the message. He says in these more than 300 columns, Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, God's angry men as they were called by the editors, preached, responded to black and white critics, and I want to make that plain, black and white. He wasn't talking to oh my black and white.
Right.
Black and white critics ranging from Reverend George C. Violence of the Christian Community Church in Harlem to white racists like J.B. Stoner of the Ku Klux Klan. And give historical and biblical reinterpretations to diagnose and treat the social and political problems facing African Americans.
Yes, sir.
That's another idea. Let's say it again, just so it can sink in. It says giving historical and biblical reinterpretations. Go back to bus stop. He was giving biblical reinterpretation. He was not telling us that Israel is black people. He wasn't telling us that Jesus coming back. He wasn't teaching us that Moses parted the Red Sea. Biblical reinterpretations. Historical and biblical reinterpretations to diagnose and treat social and political problems facing African Americans. The messenger used the Bible.
Yes.
He wasn't just saying, oh, we need to just separate from the white man. No. He talked about Moses. He talked about Daniel. He talked about Lot to get us to understand our present day social condition. That was an idea given to the black man by the messenger of God.
Right.
And these fakes steal it.
That's right.
So I say once again, if we lie, all you got to do is go back to the history and see what these small hats was doing. Was they taking the Bible, interpreting the black man's social condition, or was they in the synagogue doing bar mitzvahs? Doing, it's Hanukkah. That's their version of Christmas, Hanukkah. Was they doing all that, or was they using the Bible to get the black man to understand his social condition? Let's go on even further. He got a section in here that says reinterpreting Jesus. Let's talk about that. Let's give an example of how the messenger reinterpreted Jesus. Let's talk about one of my favorites. Because I can still remember when I first got the messenger's breakdown of Lazarus. It blew me away. So let's talk about Lazarus in the Bible to show you how the messenger reinterpreted the Bible so we could understand our social problems today. This comes from John 11 through 57. It says, these things said he, and after that he said unto them, our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go, that I may awaken him out of his sleep. Now this Jesus talking to his disciples. Bus stop bishop and IUIC want us to believe that the Bible is the black man's history. That's true and that's false at the same time. If you think that Jesus' history is an actual history of him who actually was here 2,000 years ago, then you're wrong. If you understand that Jesus' history is a story talking about the black man, then yeah, it's our history in that sense. But it's not our history as if there was a real man named Lazarus. There was a real man named Jesus. And these two people met and Jesus raised him from the dead. That's how bus stop bishop teach. That ain't what the messenger taught. So the messenger taught us that the black man been sleeping for 400 years.
Right.
Because he told us that Lazarus represents us.
Yes.
It represents our history here with the white man. Messenger went even further with Jesus' history. Because he taught us in the Holy Quran, chapter 23, I forget the verse. But it says, Mary and her son is for a sign.
Yes.
So the messenger said that 75% of the so-called history of Jesus is talking about a future Jesus. Now let's explain what we mean when we say future Jesus. We ain't talking about Jesus coming back. We got to understand that Jesus' life was so insignificant that nobody wrote nothing about him while he lived. So if Jesus was really healing the physically blind, he was healing the physical deaf, the physically dumb, somebody somewhere would have wrote something about that. But because this is 75% is talking about a future Jesus, this didn't really happen.
Right.
So we must understand, Jesus' life was so insignificant that nothing was written about him at all while he lived. That's number one. We must also remember, Jesus was the last prophet sent to the Jews. He was not a Jew himself. Number three, there was never a man who lived whose name was Jesus. That's number two. There was no J in the English language until 500 years ago. His real name was Isa. No man named Jesus was walking around in Palestine. His real name was Isa. His name was not Jesus. The messenger told us Jesus means justice.
That's right.
He said when Jesus rising from the dead, that's justice.
Yes.
That's what the messenger said. So let's look at this man that we all call Jesus. It says, then it goes on to say, it says, then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Then it says, howbeit, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he spoke of taking a rest and sleep. It says, then Jesus said unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Messengers say that's the black man.
Yes.
You can say we sleep or you can say we dead.
That's right.
He said our condition is so bad. He said that the prophets termed or symbolically called us a dead nation. He said because we so dead, it's almost like resurrecting a physically dead man. So then it goes on to say, this verse 17, it says, then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. That's another clue. Messenger said that 4 days means 400 years. Then it goes on to say, this verse 21. It says, then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hast been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask God, God will give it to thee. Jesus said unto her, thy brother shall rise again. Then Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Now, if this was talking about Jesus resurrecting Lazarus, why is she talking about he gonna rise again in the last day? Because Martha didn't live to see the last day. Jesus didn't see it. None of the Mary saw it. None of them back 2,000 years ago is here for the last day. So what's she talking about? It's talking about the black man and woman in America. Then here comes the spookism. It says, Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he was dead, he shall live. Shall he live? And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believeth thou this? So this is how the white man put the spookism in. Because it's truth mixed with falsehood. So he telling you the truth about the symbolic Lazarus, who was dead for 4 days, which means 400 years. It says he gonna be resurrected in the last day. Then the spookism come like, but if you believe in me, you live forever. You won't die. You will live. I'm the resurrection. Meaning I'm gonna rise from the dead. And it's all talking about your belief in this 2,000-year-old Jesus. Then it goes on to say, Jesus therefore again groaned in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave and a stone laid upon it. It said, Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh. So Lazarus had been in the grave 4 days. Martha say, golly, he's stinking now. What's that talking about? The condition of the black man.
Right.
We're in such a bad condition, we stinking now. We giving off a bad odor. That's how dumb and how dead the black man is. We stinking now. So it goes on to say, Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he had been dead 4 days. Then it goes on to say, this was the part that really hit me. It said, this is for verse 43. It says, and when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes on. Now think about it. If you physically dead, why they gotta tie your hands and feet up?
Right.
If you physically dead, they ain't gotta do nothing but lay you in the grave. But the white man, King James, messenger said he hid the truth from the black man. So they put Jesus' history in symbolic language. They say Jesus just called Lazarus. Then Lazarus come forth with his hands and his feet tied up. Messengers say that mean the black man can't do for self. We've been tied up here with this devil for 40 years. He done tied our hands and our feet to where we can't do nothing. We are hostage in bondage to the white man.
Yes.
So it goes on to say, it says, and his face was bound with a napkin. That's over his eyes. Messengers say that means he was robbed of the knowledge of self. He couldn't see. They had a napkin over his eyes. So by them describing Lazarus, he was not physically dead.
Right.
Because if you physically dead, why they gotta put a napkin over your eyes?
Right.
If you physically dead. If you physically dead, they don't have to tie you down. They don't have to put a napkin over you. And it would be more than Jesus to just call his name. So it goes on to say, then it says, Jesus said unto them, loose him, let him go. What you mean loose him? Who got it? Who need to let him go? The white man. So after Jesus said this, now he alive. He was never physically dead. That's talking about the black man.
Yes, sir.
So let's go on even further with the message. Because we got to show Bus Stop Bishop now what would be happening to them if we was following the teachings of the message. Let's go to 1961. This is the messenger when he debated Reverend Lightfoot. We don't never talk about this. The messenger debated at Griffith Stadium.
Yes, sir.
The Washington Redskins played at Griffith Stadium. What was it? The Homestead Grays, which was the Negro League team, played baseball at Griffith Stadium. It says Christianity versus Islam. See, Bus Stop Bishop, he don't see this kind of Muslim with this hypocrite Louis Eugene. Elder Lightfoot was a black man. But the messenger say, let's see what it do then with old Lightfoot. Let's go see what time it is with old Rem Lightfoot. Come on, Lightfoot. Let's go before the black man and see who's teaching the truth. Either me or you. That's how if you was in the way, let's see in front of everybody. Griffith Stadium, anybody can come. Everybody welcome. Let's see what old Lightfoot got to say. Bus Stop and the boys don't see that with this hypocrite. But he would have saw that with the message.
Right.
The messenger would have showed Bus Stop Bishop and IUIC what time it was. That ain't even my favorite part. Let's talk about how the messenger rolled up in Griffith Stadium on old Lightfoot. This comes from the September 11th, 1961 Evening Star. You can see the messenger walking in with his honor guard. He got all that FOI lined up all around him. This Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
We think with Bus Stop Bishop having all these brothers and you marching all, that's another Muslim idea.
Yes, sir.
Ready to do it all out. That ain't even my favorite part. That's one of that. I like that. But that ain't my favorite part. Let's talk about my favorite part. It says long lines of clean-shaven Muslims wearing dark suits and white bow ties guarded the infield grass at parade rest. The black man ain't never seen nothing like that in his life. The messenger come in with you only see an honor guard in the military. I know about honor guard. The Navy got an honor guard, the Marines got an honor guard, and the Army got an honor guard. What Negro, nigga, and colored boy group got an honor guard? Messenger had an honor guard. He walking in there between long lines, a dark suit, white bow tie, clean shaved Muslims. Imagine what them people thought, like, who is this Elijah Muhammad? Then you got FOI in parade rest around the whole infield. What you think the black, who is this Elijah Muhammad? That ain't even it. It goes on to say, it says long lines of clean-shaved Muslims wearing dark suits and white bow ties guarded the infield grass at parade rest and patrolled the aisles. So the messenger walking in with his honor guard. He got a bunch of brothers doing that. Then he walking through a whole line of brothers. He doing that. Then he got brothers at parade rest around the whole infield. He doing that. Then it goes on to say, and patrolling the aisles. So you see brothers inside the field where the people sitting, walking up and down the aisles. Black man like, what's going on in here? Then it goes on to say, it says 3 Muslim officials dispatched details by walkie-talkies. Other Muslims stood high on the roof of the stadium and along nearby streets and alleyways. So the messenger got brothers in white suits, clean shaven, standing on top of the roof. He got brothers walking up and down the street, outside and in the alley. But Bus Stop Bishop think when he see Muslims, we don't know how to handle him. He out his mind. Bus Stop Bishop and IUIC better thank they lucky stars that this hypocrite Louis Eugene is, as they say, sitting in the messenger seat. It's a hypocrite in the seat. Because we would have been showed Bus Stop Bishop what time it was. Let's go on even further with the message. But that ain't even all about the message. Let's talk about the Muslims in the East. Because the messenger was different than this hypocrite Louis. He wanted to smoke with whoever wanted it with him. So the messenger, in 1963, in the August 2nd, 1963, Muhammad Speaks newspaper, it says, Mr. Muhammad answers critics. Authority from Allah, none else. So it says, in response to alleged statements made by an Eastern Muslim leader and printed, recounted in the white newspapers, purporting criticism of the teachings of the Muslims in America, Mr. Muhammad gave the following reply to this widely circulated story in the interest of clarity. So the messenger being different from this hypocrite Louis, he heard in the newspaper that some Eastern Muslim was criticizing what he taught. So now it's time to check him now. Now you might think, all he doing is writing it in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. What that mean? He ain't talking to the Eastern Muslims. They don't care nothing about the Muhammad Speaks. We got to give more history. Let's go to the January 11th, 1958 Pittsburgh hearing. It says, Mr. Muhammad's message to African Asian conference. President Nasir, which is this one right here, was having an African Asian conference with world leaders in 1958. The messenger addressed the audience. President Nasir and the messenger had a relationship. These the facts. So the messenger had juice in the Muslim world.
That's right.
Because when you see Muhammad Ali with President Nasir, you think, oh, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. That's why they wanted to see him. No. The messenger had already went to the East in 1959.
Yes.
The messenger already had relationships with the Muslims.
That's right. So
So the messenger, let's just read some of the article for these people who think the messenger ain't had no clout. It says, Mr. Muhammad's message to African Asian conference. It says a message of significance and vital importance was read to members attending the recent African Asian conference held recently in Cairo, Egypt. Contents of the cable were revealed recently by Mr. Malcolm X, another one who ain't had no juice without the message.
right.
It says contents of the cable was revealed recently by Mr. Malcolm X, Minister of New York's Muslims, during the 4-hour program attended by a number of diplomats representing Egypt, Iraq, the Sudan, Ghana, Morocco, and by more than 700 guests. Let's break that down for Bus Stop now. All these people came to just hear what the messenger had to say in America. All these diplomats from Egypt, Iraq, Sudan, Ghana, Morocco, and by more than 700 guests. Just to listen to what little Elijah said at the African Asian Conference. This was in 1958, long before Muhammad Ali. Let's just read just a little bit of what the messenger was saying. He says, Assalamu alaikum. Your long lost let me start all the way from the beginning. He says, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, beloved brothers of Africa and Asia, Assalamu alaikum. Your long lost Muslim brothers here in America, pray that Allah's divine presence will be felt at this historic African Asian conference and give unity to our efforts for peace and brotherhood. Freedom, justice, and equality for all Africans and Asians is of far-reaching importance, not only to you in the East, but also over 17 million of your long-lost brothers of African Asian descent here in the West. So long before all of these fakes who copying the message, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was international. Once again, you think that just because you militant, just because you read the Bible, you international. Because Bus Stop Bishop, they got following overseas. Oh, Bus Stop Bishop. Acting like we connecting with all our people over another idea from the message. These Negroes, niggas, and colored boys, it was strange to the black man to hear black people who wanted more say-so over their own problems. That was strange before the message. While that was strange, the messenger telling these Africans, we your long-lost Muslim brothers. And they listening to what he's saying. So let's get back to this. So when the messenger heard one of them people from the East criticizing him, he checked him. This comes from the August 2nd, 1963, Muhammad speaks. It says, Mr. Muhammad answers critics, authority from Allah, none other. I like the way the messenger addressed this letter. Because the messenger addressed the letter just like how when Muslims, before they was going to whoop your head, they always would say we are peaceful people. Over the years of me reading articles from Muslims, whenever you heard a Muslim minister over the rostrum say, we are peaceful people, we've been here for so many, they about to whoop somebody's head. They just letting there, when you see his head whoop, we've been peaceful here for this amount of time. So if this person don't stop and you see us whoop his head, we are peaceful people. That's how the messenger answered this to this person. Because this person from the East was trying to say the messenger, them people over in Mecca, would stop the messenger from teaching what he was teaching. So this is how the messenger addressed him. He says, now this is not an answer to the Muslims of Saudi Arabia because I don't know the truth of what they have said. So he's saying, wait a minute, let me explain this to you. This ain't to you. I'm about to be talking about you, but this ain't to you because I don't know what you said. I'm really addressing him, but I'm going to be talking about you, but it ain't to you. But I'm going to be talking about you to him. So the messenger said, he said, now this is not an answer to the Muslims of Saudi Arabia because I don't know the truth of what they have said. This is an answer to the Chicago's American newspaper and its correspondents. There is no such thing that you will see coming from the Muslim world, a representative to tell me and my followers in America to stop teaching what we are teaching. To stop the teaching that I have received from Allah to give to the American so-called Negroes. It's not in the power of any Orthodox Muslim or non-believer. But in answer to such attempt, I will say that neither Jeddah nor Mecca have sent me. I am sent from Allah and not from the Secretary General of the Muslim League. There is no Muslim in Arabia that has authority to stop me from delivering this message that I have been assigned to by Allah, any more than by the authority to stop Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. So what you think the messenger would say to bus stop Bishop? Let's go on even further. There's so many I want to say. We're going to try to squeeze in another. Let's talk about another one of my favorites. We're going to have to skip around. We're going to talk about another one of my favorites, old J.B. Stone. Can't leave him out. Because I want IUIC to know, you better thank your lucky star that this hypocrite Louis Farrakhan in the way. You better thank him. Because if Muslims was practicing Islam, because another thing that I want to say, I'm not up here selling no wolf tickets. I'm telling you our history of Muslims in the mud, winos, alcoholics, prostitutes that were transformed after following the teachings of the message.
Yes, sir.
So these same Negroes, niggas, and colored boys you see in America today, that have been switched all around by this hypocrite Lewis, the same thing the teachers did for them in the 60s can do for us right here in 2023.
That's right.
I ain't selling you a wolf ticket. I'm telling you what happens when Muslims follow the message.
Yes, sir.
So this J.B. Stone, in 1957, when the white man's strategy was terrorize niggas. So you can read these articles. Any article I bring, you can get from newspapers.com. J.B. Stoner was listening to the message. So he say, let me respond to this nigga. This nigga talking real good. Let me see what he gonna say when the Grand Wizard write this nigga, because you usually have a whole lot of black people talking tough. Until the white man come, then it's all I'm sorry. So JB said, let me see what this nigga gonna say to my letter. So J.B. Stoner in the March 23rd, 1957 Pittsburgh Carrier, it says, White Fifth Crusade aims guns at Muslims. It says, arch leader of vicious Christian party writes sick hate letter to Jews, Negroes, and Muslims. I ain't read no response from no Jews or the Negroes, but the messenger responded. Because Bus Stop Bishop and them people could have responded to J.B. Stoner too. Because he wrote the letter to Negroes. Where was Bus Stop Bishop and them people? Where was the small hats? Because Bus Stop Bishop's so tough today, acting like when he see Muslims, we don't know how to handle IUIC. Where was IUIC when the white man's strategy was terrorize niggas? So let's go on even further. So J.B. wrote to the messenger. It was March 23rd, 1957. Very next week. Because they come out every week. So the messenger reading his article. Now I'm about to write mine. So just soon as he responds, soon as he say something, the messenger responds. That was the message. He different from this hypocrite Louis Eugene. So the messenger responded to J.B. It says, Mr. Muhammad answers White Fifth Crusade. It says, so-called Negroes will soon lose love for their white oppressors. So the messenger responded to him. So from 1957 to 1959, the messenger was spanking old JB. JB couldn't take it. So JB say, I got one last trick for this nigga. I'm about to threaten this nigga. I'm about to threaten him and these niggas that's here in Atlanta. Let's see what this nigga gonna do then. Once again, the messenger, August 22nd, 1959. This the messenger. He said, J.B. Stone, Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan leader, who claims to be the arch leader, is trying to stir up trouble for the Muslims and especially me. But I think and can say with certainty that if his people try doing such evil to my people, who are at peace with Allah and the world, they will baptize themselves in trouble that is other than peace.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you fall in some water, it's a difference between saying you fall in some water and get wet and you say you baptize somebody in something. Because like they used to say when I was a Christian, they say baptism is full submersion.
That's right.
That's what it means when you say to baptize.
Right.
The message say, okay, touch one of my fathers. If that's what you want to do, touch one of them. And you and all of them devils will baptize yourself. Once again, we're peaceful people.
Right.
He attacked them, he baptizing himself.
Right.
And other than peace, because we gonna fight you back.
Right.
So then the messenger goes on. He says if the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan attempts to carry out on us, I will seek only Allah for our protection. Mr. Stoner knows that 7 powers of Allah are ever waiting to defend us in this resurrection, and he is not enough for one of the 7. So we want to ask old bus stop them, because they keep on taunting Muslims with all this stuff about the Kaaba. When did some bus stops? Because I want everybody to do the history on J.B. Stone. He was actually killing black people. He wasn't one of these white people who playing games like, oh, I'm just saying. No, he was actually killing black people.
That's right.
So the messenger told him, he said, look, if you attack, we peaceful. You gonna baptize yourself in other than peace. Because all I'm gonna rely on is Allah. That's it. You know JB, because he telling the black man, JB Stoner knows that he's not enough for one of the 7. Allah is like 7 cats. He like 1 rat or a mouse.
Yes.
He say he ain't enough meal for one of the cats.
Right.
So what did JB do? The messenger. It says Elijah Muhammad invades Atlanta. It says defies Ku Klux Klan. So everybody in the Pittsburgh area looking for the showdown. Elijah Muhammad go down there on JB. JB was nowhere in sight. Praise to Allah. Now let's fast forward 4 years. This comes from the Atlanta Constitution, March 23rd, 1964. It says Klan draws 1,000 at Hurt Park rally. It says included in this crowd were approximately 200 robed Klansmen, a large number of white helmet Klan security police, and a leader of the Black Muslim movement in Atlanta, Jeremiah X. A few years ago, JB was threatening Muslims. A few years ago, Jeremiah couldn't have went to no Klan rally. They were threatening Muslims. But 4 years later, he in attendance at a Klan rally. They got 200 robed Klansmen with their little FOI security police. With little old Jeremiah and his little 2-3 brothers with him. It said Jeremiah X was one of several Negroes who attended the rally. Among the others were members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Another important part of history. This how them followers of with Martin Luther King got militant. They was down in Atlanta with Jeremiah X. That's how they went to become so militant with Stokely Carmichael. Stokely was in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. They don't tell you they used to go to the temple with Brother Jeremiah. So now they like, Jeremiah, can we go with you to that Klan meeting? So then what happened at the meeting? It says Calvin Craig, Grand Dragon of Georgia, acknowledged the presence of Jeremiah X and an A from the speaker's stand. So he ain't say nothing about the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, but he recognized Jeremiah and his aide from the crowd. It says from the speaker's platform and told his cheering audience, I have more respect for Jeremiah X than I have for the mayor of Atlanta. Where was bus stop now? This was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just want IUIC to know. Because if your head needed to be whooped, your head got whooped. Whether you black or white. Right. I just want that to be crystal clear while y'all thinking y'all chumping Muslims. Y'all ain't chumping Muslims. You chumping this hypocrite. Right. Because what you need to understand, in my close, it was far more people more powerful than Bus Stop Bishop who tried to destroy the message. Yes. Far more powerful than him. If he think that his little thing can't be stopped and he only been here for 20 years, he been here when the white man ain't killed. How many of them you saw went to jail? How many of them you saw being killed? How many of them you saw going to the hospital, being shot and getting paralyzed? Not one. How many of the followers of the message throughout the years was killed? And then another thing that I didn't even bring up in my close. We about to wrap it up. But I just got to mention one last thing for Bus Stop Bishop and all these other people who think it's a game. When you look at this 1958 Pittsburgh Carrier, when the messenger was addressing that African Asian conference, you see another article that says, be polite, courteous, respectful, Detroit Muslims hear talk. The messenger had to come to Detroit to tell the Muslims to stop starting fights with the police. Documented facts. Yes, what you think Muslims would do to Bus Stop? This is a little bit of what the messenger said. He said, if we put our finger in the fire after being warned that it is hot, God will not take the sting out of the flame. He will let it burn us. This does not mean, he concluded, that we must be fools or cowards and lick their boots. So the messenger said, look, y'all need to chill. Y'all can't be going out here starting fights with these. Now, I ain't telling you not to be licking their boots. I'm not telling you to be a coward. But he said, never be the aggressor. Right. Yes, sir. If their head need to be whoop whoop, yeah. But if it don't, leave them alone. Right. This was the messenger in 1958. Yes, sir. And you telling me about Bus Stop Bishop? We'd have been mopping the sidewalk with IUIC. Yes, sir. I want the world to know. No, we would be mopping we would go out there for fun. After that 4-hour class, let's go out there where they at. They wouldn't even last long enough for us to have fun. Go out there like, let's go out here with these Israelites. I'm telling you facts. Messenger had Muslims to start a fight with the police in 1958. You think Muslims wouldn't fight IUIC? You out your mind. Right. Well, brothers and sisters, we don't want to prolong time. So I leave you as I came in the nation of Islam, greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Enjoying the show? Help keep us on the air. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033 to make a donation.
Well, brothers and sisters, we rise to prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent and Merciful. Soul Master's Day of Judgment in which we now live. The alone do we serve, and the alone seek for thine help and aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path. Path of those upon whom thou spell thy favors. Not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down. Nor those who go astray have they heard thy teachings. Say he Allah is one God. Allah is he of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, there is none like him. And I bear witness that none is earth to be served, worship or praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is thy true servant and last apostle. Ameen. Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us not to do anything to anyone that we wouldn't have done it to ourselves, and treat everybody right, even the devil. Assalamu alaikum.